Okay, I think we're live according to this thing. All right. Nobody's shown up yet, but who knows? Alrighty. War between the land and the sea has finally landed. Or, they're showing them, two episodes at a time. Of course, for the last one will be its own. First two parts, Homo Aqua, and then what was it? The Plastic Apocalypse, if I remember correctly. Sounds like the name of an Auton-based story, but okay. But so far, it's looking pretty interesting. Like I said, it's not going down the alley that I thought it was originally going to go down. There's a few minor irks I have with it, but nothing major. But okay, well, we're going to go on. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. So, all right, let's start with William. William, what do you think so far of War Between the Land and the Sea from what we've seen, thus far?
Hey now, these two episodes are not bad. Uh, uh, um, you see the shooting of I'm gonna keep calling them sea devils. That's why I grew up remember them as. I'm not gonna deal with this aqua nonsense, and and of course everybody's aware of them because well the military wise and all that political wise because later on they got the notice that we're gonna talk to deal with the scenario like what was going on. But the thing that bugs me out is that they didn't need a meeting with the surface world at all, since they demonstrated in the second episode that all that garbage could be thrown right back to the surface world. They could have done that right there. They didn't have to show up. They just make just telling them clean your act or the next thing's gonna be worse. So that's why them coming to the surface and trying to negotiate was really we could say it was a waste because the negotiation was like, oh, it would take 40 years. Like 40 years? Are you kidding me? And and then of course they thought everybody could still have it their way by littering, using the sea to travel and all that. And they're not getting nothing out of it instead of waiting 40 years. I said, I'm just saying, that could have just used whatever they did to do that. They should have done it right after they took the body of the one who died back. Then he had to show up no more, except after they dumped the trash. Now, the thing that caused the nitpickers are going to say is about Kate Stewart hooking up with the Colonel. Um, to my knowledge, from listening, watching, and reading Doctor Who lore, Kate Stewart has never been in the military. She is the daughter of the brigadier, who that's his marriage with Kate's mom ended because they probably couldn't get along, and that's how come as we saw in downtown, like she was a little bit of a rebellion. She didn't care what his dad is. So which is unusual. Of course, a lot of years passed by, and she is the runs this unit. So in a way, she's not in trouble, but in a way, she is in trouble because knowing she was raised, by her mom and dad, but with the military, she shouldn't have hooked up with the guy. And then the guy being he is in the military, he could be in a lot of hot water for fraternizing, and people are going to claim, hey, anytime you get a promotion of higher rank, we know how you got it. So it looks bad. And what's weird is that they hook up right where the negotiation and all that's going on. And I'm saying, why is he so desperate to bone her? I mean, they're gonna wait till afterwards to hook up. Don't do it right there when there are so many people there. And we saw uh, um, uh, 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 somebody from France take a picture of this guy and put it up in the news. So all you need is a camera or a mic in your room to catch you doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. you're fraternizing. So, the thing is, when I get nervous when that happens, right in this first two episodes of something like that occurring, it makes me feel like he's gonna turn his back on her, one way or another. Whether that happens, I don't know. You know, it's up to Russell T Davies. He's the one writing this nonsense. And it's only one or two episodes in. It's not bad. And the Sea Devils put their already told them we ain't waiting 40 years, and we giving you back your trash. What happens that we're gonna wait till tomorrow for the next two episodes to come out, see what's gonna occur. I'm gonna mention other some of the other characters there in a little bit. Let the other intros come in. That's my opening statement for now.
Okay, DWC.
All right. Should say that when I was writing this, I actually wrote two for different episodes because, well, that's how I was always done. I didn't realize we were doing it all literally one group, but nonetheless, for Homo Aqua. And so begins our first Doctor Who spin-off since Class, the war between the land and the sea, and featuring a return of the Sea Devils, now called Homo Aqua, as Sea Devils is derogatory now. A concept already highlighted with the species in Big Finish, so that's not unusual. Russell Tovey does a great job playing Barclay as a more relatable everyman character that's rarely seen in Unit, just trying to do his job while trying to look out for his ex-wife and child, while the return of Kate and Shirley helped to remind us that we still are in the world of Doctor Who. The new look of Homo Aqua is great as a great design for modern audiences, along with highlighting it's the first one they've seen that looks like this, showing they have acknowledged the old look, and also highlighting that their genitals are consistent with male and female, suggesting they're non-binary or gender fluid, which combined with Barclay's child Kirby being non-binary makes me wonder if this will be relevant later. Also, was the TARDIS translating before? Because how could they speak English before but not now? With peace talks beginning, one thing that stood out was the arrogance that the humans were the ones deciding the names. I say it's Homo Aqua because that's what it looks like. But not only that, just deciding to call other species Pisces morpha grandis just because it means big fish, and the last species, Homo amphibia, as if they can't be bothered to actually ask or learn their real names. But these amphibians have taken the time to accommodate for humanity by learning English and Russian. All in all, a strong opening, and with Homo Aqua only wanting to talk to Barclay, only time will tell if he's up to this mammoth of a task. So that was for Homo Aqua. For Plastic Apocalypse, while still a good episode, not as good as the last. While the overall tone and sense of drama is still there, elements felt preachy, which isn't to say wrong, and certain new human villains felt cartoonish, namely the two generals and the energy company tycoon, to the point you can see how they're going to play out before the next 3 episodes air. Barclay's energy and passion to Homo Aqua's demands is really what made this episode shine. But this episode and the character of his ex-wife was let down by how his ex-wife seemed unwilling to comprehend what he was going through. As Lucy Mangan in The Guardian put it, I always enjoy shows that pride themselves on progressiveness, then make the nearest minor female role a thick harpy. Also, you didn't need to literally say Barclay is an everyman, we could see that. With Barclay's passion not enough to make meaningful change to the point Homo Aqua takes matters into their own hands and clear up the rivers and the sea for them, and yet the River Thames still looks polluted, and they now demand control of all sea, one can only wonder what's in store next.
Yeah, it had an okay start. Like one of the first things that's just kind of niggling at my head, just is when they bring up the creation of this thing and they say created by Russell T Davies. Wrong. The Sea Devils were created by Malcolm Hulk, who also created the Silurians. Now, while I can say, okay, you've created this spinoff, the very fact that that right there kind of irritates the shit out of me, because I'm not saying anything about based off characters created by such and such. All I see is created by Russell T Davies. That right there is a big fat no-no. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's just my professional opinion. I think Malcolm Hulk should have got an opening credit with being the creator of this species in the first place. It should have been right during the credits, based off characters created for Doctor Who by Malcolm Hulk.
I hope they got permission from his family to using these characters.
Yeah, so that kind of bothered me a little bit, just that bit in the credits. I enjoy the character of Barclay because Russell Tovey, I believe, is an amazing actor. I've seen him do things from being human all the way up to being Alonzo Frame, of course, and way back in the day, in the great big Titanic mess, the Voyage of the Dumb, as I sometimes call it, or Voyage of the Damned. But also seen him in a few other little roles here and there, and right here, he's brilliant in this episode as portraying this guy who's just literally thrust in these events. It's literally like a saying we have. Some great men do not seek greatness, they have it thrust upon them. And that's what's happened here with Barclay. This guy's just come out of nowhere, and now he's dealing with this situation, but he's also dealing with it honestly. But at the same time, he's got all these government officials and stuff trying to whisper in his ear, telling him what to say. And that's clearly not what Homo Aqua, which I still don't like that title, wants. But that leads me to the next thing that niggles at me. Yeah, I'm a detail fanatic, but I do not like the fact they're referring to a reptile-based species as Homo anything. Such as Silurians, they were calling them Homo reptilia, and now they're calling these guys Homo Aqua. Homo has always been a reference for the particular species that branched off to form man. Homo meaning human or same in Latin. So therefore calling just that very name to me, Homo Aqua, it's like, sorry, they're not descended from apes. They're clearly descended from a sea-going species. Yeah, sure, we all probably originally came from the sea, according to most theories. But these guys have gone off in a way different direction. I wasn't too shocked with the amphibians thing being able to switch sexes, because that was even introduced all the way back in Jurassic Park. It is a fact that there are species of frog, which they discussed, that they use the little bits of genes from to fill out the dinosaur DNA in the Jurassic Park movies. And these particular group, or this species, depending on their population, can change sex because of the way their organs are arranged or the way their bodies work. So the Homo, that the Homo Aqua, whatever you want to call it, I still think it sounds like the name of a water brand for folks who are homosexual. I'm sorry, it just don't even sound right. Homo Aqua. I hear Homo Aqua, then I start thinking of Aqua Velva. Okay, it's just I don't know. It's just I don't like the fact they're calling them that, because it's very, very arrogant. It's assuming they're related to us somehow when it's clear that they're not.
Well, again, it's kind of like
they evolved way before our primates ancestors did, way before, according to the storyline. So, but okay, now let's come to the big animal in the room. Like I said, so far the story I think is progressing very well. I'm enjoying it, but here's a couple more things that kind of bother me. Kate Stewart is not that stupid. One of the big no-nos in every organization, even when I was working at freaking Kmart, is that supervisors do not have sexual relations with employees, and it's the same way in every military organization on the planet. Now, while she may not be military, she is in charge of a paramilitary organization, and having relations with an officer who is under your command is a big fat no-no, and I think Kate Stewart would know better. Also, as most folks out there in the world know, messing around with your coworker generally ends badly. But also, they did cover this. Oh, God, now I'm not going to remember the name of the episode. This was also covered in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, where Captain Picard fell for an officer under his command. Then he had to put her in a dire situation, and it almost compromised his judgment. And that's a very easy situation to get involved with, when, especially with UNIT, which, if you go back to the old days, had such a high turnover rate. It wasn't surprising that this 30-year-old guy probably wound up colonel, because who knows how many colonels they've gone through just to get here. Okay, it's not a very safe job, especially when you're dealing with creatures outside the norm and you have to adapt to that. But okay, then we come to the really, really, really big elephant in the room. The Sea Devils were never that powerful. They're putting them on the same level as the creatures who came from the movie The Abyss, who can manipulate water, manipulate this, and be like, it's like, do they realize how much it would take to take the Titanic, which has been sitting on the bottom about 2.5 miles, well, no, just about shy of 2 miles down, and throw it onto the shores of New York, let alone have it land intact, because that thing's been underwater for well over 113 years now, which means it's not exactly a stable structure anymore. It is steadily collapsing in on itself. But to take that much garbage and just hurl it up and then have it drop from the sky would take God-like powers. The Sea Devils never had that, ever. Because if the Sea Devils had ever had that ability, we'd have been wiped out a long time ago. Because why are they even negotiating at all?
There you go.
Because if they had that kind of power, they could have just said, fine then, mankind, guess what? No more messing around. There wouldn't have been a negotiation, especially given the fact that now apparently there are so many of them that are just popping up out all over the place, all around the planet in numbers on these big monuments. Like I said, that reminds me once again of the big massive base structure that came up out of the ocean at the end of the movie The Abyss. It seems like Russell T is once again, I don't know if he's just paying homage or if I don't know what's going on, but it's the very same thing. There they all pop up. Now we've got a whole bunch of Sea Devils. And by the way, not one of them looks anything like the Sea Devils we've been exposed to all the way up to when Chibnall brought them back in Legend of the Sea Devils, which very, very made me upset, because it's kind of like he's trying to rewrite these characters entirely. And it's like, okay, but once again, I want to sit down with them, Russell. If they had these kind of powers, why are they even negotiating? If we were wiping out that much of their population, they could wipe us out overnight if they had that kind of power.
Easily. All they had to do was take all that garbage collecting they just did and dump it on one continent. One. Just to prove the point.
How many nuclear submarines do we have all over this planet from both? Well, even the Russians still have theirs out there. That all they have to do is dump a few of those on the ocean. On the surface, and they crack open the right way. And congratulations, the radiation and fallout alone will do a great big amount of damage to the population of this planet. Especially if you strategically land them in the right places and just make sure the reactor core pops open. Because with that kind of ability, they're just way too overpowered. Way too overpowered. Way too OP'd. You see, one of the things I loved about the Sea Devils when they first came was the fact that they had limited numbers. Yes, they did have advanced technology, but it did kind of give them an edge as far as weapons go. But no, they did not have the ability to just throw shit out of the ocean at random. And, otherwise they'd have conquered us a long time ago. So it kind of makes no sense to me why they're even negotiating, especially given the fact that the amount of crap we've been dumping in the ocean for God knows how many years now. They should have declared war a long time ago. Between nuclear submarines, going down in the middle of the ocean. You don't even want to know how many of those we had just pop open between us and the Soviets. Nuclear incidents that happened on the bottom of the ocean. They should have declared war a long time ago, way long time ago. And they could have wiped us out easy. So, okay. And my last thought before I go back to a general discussion, I think they're finally catching on to the fact that I'm not sure Salt is really an individual. Given the way she's acting, reacting, and the way the Sea Devils and the other beings that are with them, I don't know who that other species is because they haven't really gone into it, are doing, as they mentioned, when she suddenly took a sniff of the flower they brought, all of a sudden, even the guys in the tanks, which can't smell anything, sniffed along with everybody else. I think what it is she is like, all right, to put it easily, once again, Star Trek Next Generation, she's Locutus. She is their a voice for the collective, I think, is what it is. That's why she has a human face to easily more, associate with humans, but also I'm not sure if she's an individual or channeling the entire species or if she is a collective being of that entire species. I don't think she's necessarily a queen or a monarch or anything like that. I think she is literally where they got the name Locutus from was from Latin for one who speaks. And I think that's what she is. She was literally created to be the collective of the entire group. And that's why she was able to suddenly, when she got angry, she shifted to another form, being male, and got a lot more aggressive. I'm beginning to wonder if she is an actual individual at all. You see, that's kind of my theory. Like I said, it'll probably get proved wrong, but I was just throwing it out there. Okay, all right, you guys take on with some of your thoughts. All right.
I just want to answer somebody who's watching this asked a question on how we were able to watch it since it is not airing on Disney Plus yet. It airs in BBC, and we were able to, those of us who know how can watch the programs from over there. So that's how we were able to watch it. It will not be on Disney Plus for a few. I don't know next month or a few months, but it's not airing now on Disney Plus. It is not.
Okay, I'm going to answer Sean's question there. How did you get to watch War Between? It's a word that begins with T and ends with T, and I'm not going to say it out loud. Okay. All right. It was VPN. Yeah, that was it. It was a VPN. All right, that's all I'm going to say about it.
I would just go on more about that you don't like the word Homo aqua. All right, but again, I think that goes back to my point of what I was saying at the beginning. Yeah. To me, that just shows the arrogance of the humans because they didn't name themselves that. The humans did. Again, they were actually free. They actually said free life forms. They actually distinctly said that there were 3 different life forms: Homo aqua, Pisces morphic grandis, which just means big fish, and then we have Salt, who was Homo amphibian, which would suggest it would suggest that they are 3 different things. In fact, they even mention those names a bit later in the second episode, so they are treating them as 3 different things. There was also, I only noticed this while listening to the Who Culture reviews of it, and stuff I didn't sort of notice but didn't notice. But obviously, you've got the giant fish tank essentially, and it was essentially a fish tank because there was a big difference between the humans and clearly how the humans were treating Homo aqua in the sense that they're just still in the fish tank being observed by humans, which is frankly somewhat degrading on that level. And also, again, with Salt's transformation into a man, this is just, I didn't notice it at the time. Again, I didn't notice it from the Who Culture review. That's just social commentary on that. But when Salt was female, she just wasn't being listened to at all. And she had to become a man just to get anyone to notice what she was talking about, just to be listened to.
Yeah, just to get that and be more authoritative, take back control of the room, so to speak. I think that's one of the reasons that, plus maybe, the whole species said, look, enough of the the babbling and all that, boom, this is what's going on. But what had also me dying laughing was all these people jumped on, how dare you do this? How dare you do that? It's like, guys, what are you going to do? Nuke the bottom of the ocean till you hit the right spot? Because it's not like, you have any type of advantage to fight back against this species, given the amount of power they've shown you they have. At this point, your best alternative would be to, like Barclay said, sit down and shut up. Because they're clearly, as Kate also put, they're running the room at this point.
But I would also point out again, I was mentioning that the whole all 3 of those species were behind a fish tank thing. That's what's going to get me interested for tomorrow's episodes, because they have actually said you will now meet us in our territory, and I'm going to find that quite interesting. I'm thinking the visual symbolism. That's probably going to be quite interesting to look to in contrast.
That's the one question I'd like to get answered, because considering the unit was describing where they're at, and no submarine can get down there. So there has to be a way for especially him and whoever, for them to be where they're going to want them to meet at.
Yeah, I
What you
imagine.
say, something's gonna, some they're gonna have to do something.
Oh yeah, I imagine it's going to be their technology in some way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mankind, yeah, we do tend to be arrogant. We tend to, think that we're masters of all we survey, and then, you know, think, something like this could happen, and then we try to put it in a box, so to speak. You know, like I said, look at our history. For years and years, we were sitting there going, we came from this particular species. And then we found out, no, wait a minute, there were actually several species of us living on this planet at the same time. And okay, well, now we got to shift our entire point of view. But it still took decades before we even acknowledged that, okay, we didn't come from there. These guys actually lived alongside us, along with these guys, and these guys. And now they're realizing, it's the same situation with, I hate using the term, but it's the only way they're using Homo aqua. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge, okay, guys, oh God, I'm going to hate using this term too. Guess what, mankind? You're the colonizers. They're the original owners.
Yep. of the sea, because mankind lives on land. So
Yeah.
But
also,
here's a funny question. Since Barkley is the representative for the land, he's the one that talks with Salt. Who else needs to go with him down below to continue the conversation? I mean, I can understand maybe the camera guy or something like that, but not everybody that was in that room is going to go down below. It's going to be Barkley and maybe one or two more people. You can't send Kate because she's in charge of unit. You can't send her. So that's weird. Who's going to go with him down below?
Someone call up Jim Cameron.
Well, we'll learn that tomorrow.
We'll find out tomorrow. But
we'll learn about what's going on with that tomorrow. Because like I said, I think the only person who's ever dived anywhere near that deep was Jim Cameron when he went down in the one trench, and he actually built and designed and built the vehicle he used to do it, because he got very, very into that engineering and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, he was one of the ones who warned Titan Expeditions it ain't gonna work. Yeah, but listen, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Okay, so we'll find out tomorrow more. But like I said, I'm still enjoying the story though, pretty much. Like I said, just a few little things niggling at me here and there, but I'm not going to say the whole thing's a mess because of it.
But the thing is, it's a little bit confusing. Like, why the politics? I can understand the politics are concerned because of them. They do trade and all that by sea like that. But I don't. But these little hush meetings and all that, it makes no sense. They're trying to, they bribe this guy with citizenship to get the DNA of the Sea Devils. That they say, so what? So if you attack the Sea Devils that's on land or right on top of the sea and wipe them out, so what? It's a whole bunch below, especially with that equipment they got to deal with that. So I mean, you want to be that stupid and try to start a war that fast?
Well, like Guy said, that I was saying these guys. I mean, that guy. I couldn't tell whether he was both a politician and an energy business tycoon or just business tycoon, but it was him and those three other generals, and one of them meant to be an American, but again, Doctor Who media still seems to have a tradition of very bad American accents. But like I said, those guys were just completely cartoonish to me, and the idea is he's meant to be a very cartoonish villain who doesn't give a toss about Homo Aqua and just wants his oil. So, well, assuming it's oil, he just wants to do his energy company thing the way he wants to do it, regardless of the consequences of who's there. Like I said, very cartoonish kind of villains.
Well, when I saw the guy, he took the when he took the sample and he gave it over, the first thing that popped into my head, and like I said, contrary to popular belief, in our last finale, or last couple finales, RTD is a classic fan, and the last time the Sea Devils popped up was in Warriors of the Deep, back in the 5th Doctor era. Well, other than, of course, Legend of the Sea Devils, and that was that one particular Sea Devil with Jodie Whittaker. But in that episode, they were introduced to a little thing called hexachromite gas. And remember, it attacked sea-bearing organisms. So I'm beginning to wonder if this isn't Russell's little nod to that episode and how that particular gas was what it was originally developed for. Because remember, it was supposed to be used for sealing structures, but what if it was originally developed to be a weapon? Scary thought.
And equally, no, it literally just occurred to me. Don't know if you noticed, but there was there was the leader of the Albion Party, who you might remember from 73 Yards. So they're back, and they are meant to be a very obvious hard right type party.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't even be surprised if the guy if the guy who's the energy tycoon is also an MP. I wouldn't be surprised if he was another member of the Albion Party, and Russell is essentially just not being remotely subtle at all about what he thinks.
Okay, but like I said, so far we're off to a good start. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to hold off our individual ratings for each chapter until we do the final one. And then we'll sit down and have a discussion about why we rated each segment, the score we gave it. So we're going to do a little something different this time around. Rather than rate the episodes now, we'll wait until we do the final episode. Then we'll say, okay, we gave this chapter this, we gave that chapter that. And then we'll discuss why and what, go into individual reasons for that. So until next time, folks, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll catch you all again around this time next week when we discuss episodes 3 and 4. So take care, everyone. Enjoy your weekends. We'll see you all on the flip side. Take care.
Be seeing you.
And the stream roll.